Hi, so we're still looking at social behaviour and we want to look at primate behaviour in particular. A definition of primate. So any placental mammal of the order primates, typically having flexible hands and feet with opposable first digits, i.e. the fact that you can move your thumb in across your palm, good eyesight, and in the higher apes a highly developed brain, includes lemurs, lorises, monkeys, apes and man. A little phylogenetic tree of connections here. Being clear what we mean by order. An order is one level of a taxonomic system that we use for naming things. So at the very bottom we have kingdom, and we are in the animal kingdom, and then we go up to the phylum. We are in the chordates, so that because we have a backbone, and then within that the class is mammals, and then within that the order is primates. And we can narrow to family and genus and then species, which we could do with humans. We go animal, chordate, mammal, primate, hominid, Homo sapiens. Okay, now the more names you have in common, basically, the more related you are. So all primates have the first 4 in common, and then they move into different groups from there. Okay, there is quite a wide range of animals that would come within that. And we have primates all over the world, and obviously humans are over almost the entirety of it, but we have large numbers of different species and subspecies of primates. A lot of primate behaviour is based around the reproductive strategy. Now, there are 2 main options for reproductive strategy. Okay, this R selected or K selected. If I can got just about enough space to put a little doodle in here for a graph. Okay, if this was your population going here, and this is time, then population generally starts small, goes fast, slows down, and then eventually you get to a point where it's nice and steady. If we zoom in on that, it's actually doing that kind of up and downy thing, but being kept in check and then down low, and so it comes back up, a negative feedback, but on a population scale. Okay, now some species are selecting for this area here. These would be your R, so rapid production. So small, short lifespan, don't put a lot of parental care. Quite often it's just a case of lay an awful lot of eggs and then leave them alone. Okay, but these species up here, they're selecting for the kind of carrying capacity. So what we're looking for is maintaining a steady rate, and to do that you invest an awful lot into offspring survival. So you don't make very many offspring, but those that you produce, you put an awful lot of effort into making sure they make it to their own reproductive level. So reproductive success, when we're talking about species, is just maintaining their population or increasing their population number. So parental care in terms of primates, they put a huge amount of investment in. There's feeding, there's cleaning, defending, protecting, transport them around. Quite often you see the kind of pictures of little baby primates attached to their mothers, and that's an awful lot of effort. But what you're looking for is to have a high chance that they're going to survive. And what that also means is that they've got an extended time when they can learn. And they, remember, are all social animals, so you have very complex social signals that have to be learned. And that's really, really important. So how primates do that is essential. One of the biggest ways that they do this is through play. Okay, and this is something that's absolutely essential for all primates, including us. What we're looking for is ways to learn and practice the social behaviours that you need later. You learn all of the displays, okay, the threat displays, and in primates you will see some, for us, will look very obvious because we are so closely related. The very much teeth bared and running towards would be something that we would look at as a threat display. And we see the appeasement in exactly the same way that you have if we've got this guy with the very much threat, and here we have someone who's very much trying to appease. So eyes are down, hunched body posture, what you would expect to say, I am not the problem. So they can be very specific for each particular species, but generally it's just a case of look intimidating. The appeasement, again, could be specific, but overall, look less threatening. So hunch over the body, stay still, eyes down, just basically say I am not the problem. And this will reinforce the social order. It will quite often give you your hierarchy, and it will often be the dominant male to the subordinate males and females in the group. Because primates are hairy, there is a real issue with parasites, and grooming is actually a very important thing to keep health, but it's also really important to maintain social dynamics. So it reinforces friendships, alliances. Allowing or not allowing grooming patterns would be important for deciding where the social hierarchy is. You can see how this could be a problem-solving question as well, similar to the pecking order in hens. And because primates have a very mobile face, then a lot of communication is through expression. Okay, body posture will also work. These are just some of the ones that we have as examples with capuchins. So there are things that if you study them a lot, you will know more and more about what these things mean. Always trying to avoid anthropomorphism, which is where we make a decision about what we think something is happening because we think that's how we would behave. So social status is not necessarily fixed. In any social group, then the social status can change, and that would be determined by the responses that are constantly being given by others to dominance displays and the appeasement that's offered. So it will cause shifting alliances within the groups. So you may have someone who's top of the hierarchy that then falls down the hierarchy as behaviours shift and change. Within primate groups, you have females will use sexual appeasement, and also they could even use their young to assure their place. So what that means is they may offer their young to, say, an older female who doesn't have young at the time to carry around. Anything like that that will work to maintain their place. Another interesting book for you. So the social structure in primates, very complicated, but it's also linked to several other things that we need to take into account. So it's very closely linked to where they actually live. It is very closely linked to how much resources available, whether that's food, whether that's space, and also just to their physical adaptations, their taxonomic group as well. If we look at the ecological niche in the primates, primate order covers a large number of very different species. You saw that in several of the other slides, and that means that they're going to have varied niches. They're going to have specific, particular ways that they interact with other living things and with the environment, and a particular social structure which supports that particular niche will not necessarily suit another. If we look at some examples here, this is going to make a big difference. Just the differences about them is going to make a difference about what size of group will work for them, how big a territory they need to range, how many lookouts they need to set. All sorts of different things will decide exactly what their social structure has to be. This is a little bit more obvious, I think. Basically, resource distribution means how much you have of a particular resource. So the size of the group can be absolutely directly related to that. If you have, say, enough water in an area that can support 10 in the group, then that's the maximum size of the group. But if you have plenty of water and it's food that's the link, then you can go through all of these, okay? But what's really important is the larger the group gets, the more complex the interactions that you have to maintain the hierarchy and to keep that group as a socially functioning unit. As a social group, primates are really good at exploiting resources, so they work together to form group defence. So you have alarm signals, you have groups that might split and then rejoin, so they split up to forage and then they join back up to sleep, giving you a larger number during the night. They can cooperatively hunt, they can use tools, they can do food preparation. So by tool use that might be things like chimps sticking a stick into an insect nest to pull out other things. You might use gorillas as an example. They fold particular plants in particular ways. All of this has to be learned, hence the need for an extended childhood. And you quite often have a marked and defended area, which is their home range for primate groups. So a particular social group will take over a particular territory and constantly patrol it and mark it. And all of this increases their chance of survival. Last point in this, probably quite obvious. If you have closely related organisms, then you expect them to have quite a lot of similarity in terms of their adaptations, which means that they are filling quite similar ecological niches. And that would mean in terms of social groups that they're more likely to have similar social organisations. And that is true.